Hi, Taylor.
Hi.
Thank you for attending this writing conference with me. I hope that it's going to be very beneficial for you in helping with your writing assignments and showing you how you can use writing across the curriculum to help you with all of your writing assignments throughout your college career. First of all, we're going to be talking about your strengths and your weaknesses. What do you feel like are your writing strengths, and what do you feel like are some of your weaknesses?
Um, I guess I would say that one of my strengths is vulnerability in storytelling, but I think some of my weaknesses are probably, I haven't really thought about it. I think probably taking too long to get to the point in the meat of the story of what I'm trying to communicate.
Okay, so do you have any problems with picking topics or coming up with what you want to write about, anything like that?
Sure. Yeah. I think sometimes when I'm thinking of a topic that I want to communicate, sometimes it's not as clear of a thought process as I would like it to be. Sometimes I feel like it's a little bit, my brain is a little bit scattered in trying to narrow the point down to a particular topic. And yeah.
Are there some methods of writing that you prefer? Like, do you find that sometimes you look at a writing assignment and it's like just telling you how many pages to write and how many words to write, and sometimes that feels overwhelming? Do you ever feel that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like sometimes in my college career, it's been maybe it doesn't take as many words as the requirement said, or maybe it takes more for me to really get the point across. And I feel like sometimes the parameters around a paper are a little bit constricting, because it's like, oh well, I feel like I can get my point across in a certain amount of words, but I know that you've said to, the requirement is to make it more words, and so I feel like I have to really stretch it out, and it kind of taints the meat of what I'm trying to say.
Right, right. Well, let me go over a few things with you about writing across the curriculum. And I hope that these will help you with some of the strengths that you have and some of the weaknesses. The first thing I want to go over with you are the three constructs of effective writing across the curriculum practices. And that is the writing processes are enhanced by interactive communication. So you want to have a lot of communication with your instructor and with your writing instructor. So it could be that you have a math paper due, and your math instructor and your writing instructor could come together with you in interactive communication to make your writing more interesting, more beneficial to you as a writer and beneficial to your readers. The second thing is writing assignments need to include critical and creative thinking. And I think this is one of the reasons why that parameter that you were talking about with how many pages, this tends to stifle creative thinking instead of influencing it to come out more. So what we want to do is take writing assignments from a certain parameter like that of, this many words, this many pages, and try to garner it more into a creative thinking assignment. The third thing is writing tasks must be clear and have clear and accurate expectations. And so that goes back up to the communication thing as well, is that as long as you understand what's expected out of you, that you can, by communicating effectively with your instructors, then you can, that creative and critical thinking can come out a lot more. Let's go to the next slide. as far as interactive communication is concerned, you're talking about your subject instructor, your writing instructor, and you. And so a lot of times we think of this instructor and me only, and we're not including somebody that is in our English class or our writing classes. So this is kind of like combining those things together. And instead of writing your paper on something arbitrary, you could go to your subject instructor, the person that is giving, instructing you on a class that's maybe in your major or in your minor, and you say, I've got to write this paper, but I really would like to, include it in my portfolio about my my subject major. And so this would make the paper more interesting for you to write and more interesting for people to read. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. So next we're going to talk about critical or creative thinking. And that, of course, you see this pie chart in front of you, and it talks about combining critical thinking and writing assignments and kind of taking that out, that number of pages written. So it's, I think that adds so much pressure to people. And if you communicate with your instructor and say, look, I know we're supposed to have so many pages in this, but this is what I would like to accomplish, and I've got 3 points, or I've got, I want to write a something different, do it in a different way. I think with that communication, you can take your writing to a whole new way of using creativity. All right, let's go to the next slide. It talks about clear and accurate expectations. And so, because the whole thing about writing assignments is that we're not trying to get people to write just to write. We want to have success in learning. And in order for that to happen, we do have to have clear expectations, and we do want your creativity. So your writing should foster that creativity and not put a cap on it by saying how long it has to be or how many words. In other words, I don't want you taking your paper and counting the words instead of counting how creative you are. Okay, so applying writing across the curriculum to assignments. And I like this quote. It says, the curriculum in school should reflect the integrated world outside of school. So we don't want you to see your writing assignment as separate from who you are, separate from what interests you, separate from your personal creative spirit. So we want those things to come into play, and for you not to choose a topic or feel like you have to write on something or write so many words on something that is not even of interest to you. It's not integrated into your world at all. So that's how I want you to start viewing your writing as, this is my world. And this is what I want to write on. It's included in who I am and what I want to do with my life. So I want to help you with choosing topics. We use the acronym CRAFT, and that talks about C for context, R for role, A for audience, F for format, and T for topic. So you're talking about integrating all those things together. You want to give across the core concepts of the assignment and whatever the teacher is or the instructor is trying to get you to write on. You want to understand those things, but you want to understand that your ability to write is coming from the role that you have. So in other words, you're not writing separate from who you are. You have a role in this. And we also want to think about the audience. Who's the audience that you're speaking to? That's a big part of writing. F is for format. It is applying the right format to the writing activity. And T for topic, it talks about developing creativity in your writing task, as we have talked about. And so we want to look at all of those things, but we don't want to just look at one of them. I think a lot of times in writing, we just look at the context, or we just look at the audience, and we don't look at the other formats of writing. So here we are at the end of our writing conference now. We're coming to the end, and we're talking about identifying methods. So once you've chosen a topic that is important to you, it's part of your world, it's part of who you are, you can look at a different method of writing than what is typical. So you could for instance, you could do poetry. For instance, you could write your paper like an interview. You could do it like investigative journalism. You could do a play, a short story. You could journal it. You could even write a song. Isn't that interesting?
That's interesting.
Yeah, because I think so many times we think about our writing has to be in one format. It has to have, the typical 5-page paper, the typical 10-page paper. But I think if you communicate with your instructor some things that may apply to that topic, but be outside of the box, most instructors love that. They really want you to write, and they want you to write well, but they're interested in how you write as well. It doesn't have to just be that typical paper that, most students are going to turn in. I think the creativity can come into play here as long as you're meeting the expectations and as long as you're the context across. So feel free to draw the line to some of these things and pick something that's a little bit off the beaten path and talk to your instructor about that. And I think it will, because you're so interested in music, I think this would be a great thing for you because it would help you with songwriting and also with writing for your college classes. The meaning behind the strategy is the 3 things we talked about: interactive communication, creative thinking, and clear expectations. And as long as you're doing those things, I think you're going to have a great class this semester, and you're going to be able to choose topics that are related to you and write outside of the box in methods that I think would be highly interesting to you and highly interesting to your readers. How do you feel about that?
I think that's awesome. I didn't really think about the methods that you mentioned before. I just would never have even thought to ask if there was a new way that I could write. And yeah, I think all of this is very, very informative.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for attending this writing conference with me. And I look forward to doing this with you again.
Of course.